Right then, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to the Breakdown Podcast. We'll try that again. Yeah, we had an issue with the streaming, then, but that's all right. We're good to go. We're ready, and it is interesting. We've got, as always, with Cardiff City, there is always things to talk about. We are going to talk about, of course, the new manager or incoming new manager. We're going to talk about the current squad, how they may fit that system. We're going to talk about some stuff that's come out today about a potential sale. We're going to talk about it whatever we can. We're going to talk about it all. We're going to answer some questions from you guys, of course. Keep it nice and interactive for the next 50 minutes or so. And as always, I want to hear what you guys think. If you haven't already, make sure you check out the series of videos that we've put out over the last couple of days on Brian Barry Murphy, the risks with him, what he'll bring from a positive side. We've also looked at a potential player that he might look to sign, and among other things. Please do share this stream, especially because I just went on the wrong one initially. So please do share this one. Make sure everyone's got it. We're going to talk about it. So I want to talk about, first and foremost, let's talk about the stuff that's come out today, because I can add a little bit of context to it. Not a lot, but a little bit. So like what Ernest put out today, there is quite a lot of truth to it. I'm not saying that any of it's untrue, just saying that there's bits of it which I was told earlier this week. Now, I was asked to sit on it because it was at a very delicate stage and just sit on it, and I would get some more information next week. Obviously, it's come out now. Ernest has put some stuff out, and some other people have know about it as well. Effectively, there is interest from, I think, two parties, and it's very real. Like at the moment, as I say, it's at a difficult, delicate point, and we shall see. But what I would say to people is, you can't get carried away. Like, I think anyone who thinks that this process started this week, you're kind of kidding yourself there. It didn't start this week. It's been ongoing for a while. And equally, I think anyone hoping that it's going, we all hope it's going to be done before the start of the season. It's unrealistic just because of all the fanning about that you've got to do with the fit and proper test and the EFL, and even just that side of it. Never mind the legal and documentation and all the things that would go into selling a football club and a business the size of Cardiff City. As far as I know, and the person who told me is a very, very good source. Actually, two people who've told me now, but they're both very, very good scores. They've got no reason to lie about it. They're not the sort of people to lie about it either. And it is what it is. I'm hoping to get a lot more detailed information with regards to it next week. And once I do, because it's out there now, I feel a bit more open to talking about it. And like, we'll talk about obviously what's out there as well. I'm happy to do it. And look, at the end of the day, I think most people, even if like there's those of us who, like, I've got no time for Vincent Tan at all. Like that, the rebrand killed like my relationship with him, if that's so to speak, and it always will. It took me a while to go back and stuff like that, but like, I think what you also got to understand is and accept is that he's kept the club afloat. He's put money in, and he's made sure that the club hasn't gone into administration or gone bust and all this sort of stuff. Now, would we all like to see him spend some more money and do these certain things? Of course we would. Of course we would. And as I said the other week, like, ultimately, we all would like a nice sugar daddy owner where, money's no object and they love the club and they do all the right things for the club and what like a fan would do and the rest of it. And they've got a bottomless pit of money, but it's not realistic. However, for whatever reason, it may be because of relegation, it may be because of pressure from his family. It seems at this point that Vincent Tan's at least open to speaking about sales, whereas previously he wasn't open to those people approaching him. Now, if it develops and it becomes a very real thing, then great, as far as I'm concerned. But as I always say with anything, the grass isn't always greener, You only got to look around at some big clubs that have gone bust. You've only got to look at the state of a club like Reading has been in. only now really finding their feet again. Like some big clubs have had issues from owners. So hopefully, if a new owner does come in and buy Vincent Tan out, or a new consortium or whatever it may be, hopefully they, one, have the best interests of Cardiff City at heart, and two, the EFL does a very good job of making sure that they pass the fit and proper test and all that sort of stuff. So we don't find ourselves in a situation where the grass wasn't greener, was greener. It is what it is. At the moment, like for me, as someone who talks about it, like I'm happy to talk about it and stuff like that, but it's also, there's not much to talk about in terms of, it's at a stage where it could go either way. And that is just the way it is. Like it could obviously go one way and then everyone's happy. It could go another way and everyone's not happy. So I think you've just got to let it play out and see what it is. Like, you know, it'll be massive. Like, you know, like you think, right? And this is probably one of the biggest things for me is there's a massive divide in the fan base. A large portion of that divide and the bickering and the argument comes from people's feelings towards Vincent Tan, because you almost have like three people where you'll have the people who hate him, will never accept any, like never forgive him, etc., and they've kind of left, or they've never had the same relationship with the club. They don't go week in, week out anymore. They don't go at all, whatever it may be. Then you've got the people maybe who didn't go for a bit and then eventually came back because they couldn't live without it, but they still won't forgive him. But it's kind of like one of them. And then you've got the others who have kind of forgiven him and open to the fact that he keeps the club going, etc., and they defend him a little bit when fans criticize him. And it's unfortunate because ultimately all three of those groups, and I'm sure, look, there's nuance to everything. There's people in, I'm not saying that covers everyone. Of course I'm not. I'm just generalizing. But the other side of that is it's just a divide. And that divide costs, in my opinion, the atmosphere, the united feel of the fan base, the crowd numbers, like it all plays into it. And that divide in the fan base for me is a massive part of why, or Vincent Tan is a big part of that. It is what it is. Now, of course, who knows? You know, you never know who could take over. In my opinion, I think it's time for him to move on, because my worry was with relegation was, one, if he pulled the plug, we'd be right up shit creek, and we still would be. If Vincent Tan pulls the plug at this point, we'd still be up shit creek. But on the other hand of it, you've got his children, his family, who have been putting pressure on him for the last few years to cut ties with Cardiff and stop putting money in each month and all the rest of it. And, you know, I think he's in his mid-70s. If something was, you know, to happen to him at some point, then they ain't going to keep doing what he does. They would pull the plug immediately. And again, Cardiff is the one, the club that everything was, that's what suffers. And we'd be right up shit creek. That is a worry. If someone else comes in, you hope that they've got the best interests of the football club at heart. Now, a few people are saying, like, which country are they from? I'm not 100% sure, mate, but I think South Africa and America, it was the two which I had heard. But it's at a really, like, I can't specify enough. Like, it's at a very, very delicate stage, and that's why I'm surprised it's got out, because the people who, as far as I knew, all wanted it to happen. So, like, I don't think it's a good thing that it's got out in terms of him selling. I might be wrong about that, though, because I'm guessing. Like, I feel like in terms of him selling up and moving on and stuff like that, it would have been better for it to stay under wraps for a bit longer. But we'll see. We'll see. it's difficult not to be excited by it. You know, at the end of the day, right? Whether you're in the group who likes Vincent Tan, or you're in the group who hates him, or you're someone like me who will never forgive him, but kind of like can see that he does and is keeping the club afloat, and you can't really deny that. Like, ultimately, it's difficult to not be excited by a new owner coming in who's got the finances to take this football club where it should be. Because, as I've said many times, the infrastructure of the city, the stadium, the new academy, the planned new training ground, all that's missing is the way that the football club's run and the football team getting their shit together. If that all comes together, it's a very special time and a very special football club. Now, if it happens, then of course it's hard not to be excited by it. Personally, no, and I, of course, like, so a few social media posts are not going to derail a sale. I don't mean that. I just mean generally, because the media will pick it up now and stuff like that, and that suddenly puts a lot more pressure on the whole thing. In terms of the ins and outs of it, like, as I've said many times, right? For me personally, and the people on my channel, and that's all I can speak for, is I prefer to be right rather than first, if that makes sense. So I don't want to say anything which is factually incorrect. And I'm waiting for more details, which I'm hopefully going to get next week. Now, I know, like, that's not what people want to hear, but, like, I'm not going to lie and go, oh yeah, I know this and I know that. That's all I really know. Now, the only other additional thing I heard was that he was going to take the debt with him within the sale, and that there was going to be some sort of agreement regarding the Salah payout, but I don't know what, and I don't know how, and I won't pretend to know the ins and outs of any financial things. That's all I've heard. That's all I know. But what Anis had posted, and I haven't read Anis's post in full, I should also add. I've seen it and I kind of skimmed through it, but it rings true. A lot of those details ring true to what I was told earlier this week. And look, as I said, it's not something which has been, started on Monday. I think someone asked if they think, where's it gone? I think it was Tim. So Tim says, was the managerial recruitment delay caused by this potential buyout? So I haven't heard that. However, the person who, or one of the people who passed this the information on to me at the start of the week, they kind of speculated that might have been the case. Everything I was pretty up to speed on everything going on through the managerial search as well as it could be. And I feel that I don't think that this had a massive effect, but also I was only privy to certain things. I wasn't privy to all of it. I wasn't privy to other stuff. So I can't speak for other people. I wasn't in the room. And the same with the sale thing. Like, I can only tell you what I've been told earlier this week from people who I trust. And ultimately, if people want me to dramatize it or to add my own details, you're probably in the wrong place, unfortunately, because that's not me and that's not what I like the guys on the channel to do. I apologize, but it is what it is. On a second note, so I gotta just answer this because it's interesting. So CF11 News says, did you notice that Chesterfield and Borley done the club statement last week? Not Cho and Dalman, coincidence or right? So this is what I think. This is an opinion. This is not based on anything other than my own opinion. I don't think it had anything to do with that, and I'll tell you why. I think Dalman hasn't been involved in the process very much for his own reasons, which I'm sure will come out at some point, but it's not for me to discuss. Cho was called out individually by the trust, by myself and other people as well, kind of said that he had caused a lot of issues within the negotiating things with at different stages with different managers. So I think what they did, now some would say it's clever, some would say it's not. I'll let you decide. But what I would kind of get to the gist of is like, I think they rolled out someone in Gavin Chesterfield who's very popular. And I think they brought in Steve Borley, who's a Cardiff lad, to do the statement, to try to simmer down the discontent and the frustration about the managerial search. I don't think it was anything to do with any sort of sale or anything. And like I said, the chances of this sale, if it happens at all, being done before the start of the season would be like unfathomable, because there's so much you have to go through, unless, and I say this, unless it is way farther along than what we're led to believe, or what people have posted today, what I heard the other week at the start of the week. Like, unless it's way further along than that, and that's why it's kind of leaking out. I don't know, but like, again, I ain't gonna speculate on stuff I don't know. You know, ultimately, I'm gonna stick to what I know or what I trust, and we'll go from there. But hopefully, it turns out that there's more. You know, it's like, I think there's truth to it. I think there's definitely been talks, and like I said, the fact that I was asked to sit on it because it was a bit of a thing, you'd hope that that's a positive sign, is what I would say. Again, just opinion. But do we get our managerial announcement tomorrow? Well, being the bearer of bad news, I have heard from a person who I do trust and would know that it might possibly be Tuesday. But so just don't get your hopes up. And then if it comes tomorrow, great. We're all happy. What do we think of Brian Barry Murphy? Because obviously you've done a lot of pre-recorded videos. Like, how do you all feel about the appointment or impending appointment of Brian Barry Murphy? Like, I know I'm excited by it, and I know, you know, I made a video, I think it was 8 months ago, saying that Cardiff should get Brian Barry Murphy into the football club in some sort of role. And obviously at that time, I'm trying to think now who was the manager at the time. Was it 8 months ago? Where are we now? June. That would have been coming into Christmas. So that was when Omar Rhys was the interim manager. And I basically said, you need to get this guy in, whether it's as a technical director, a sporting director, I don't know, janitor, whatever, manager, coach, assistant manager. I didn't care what. Just get him in the football club, because he's the sort of football mind who can change everything and evolve the football club and get us. You know, how many times have I talked about in recent videos, in the rebuild series, and just live shows generally, about our club being behind on almost every metric, whether it's media, social media, analysis, the football field, like from top to bottom, we always feel that we're about 5 years at least behind. And he's the sort of person who can modernize you very quick, because he'll modernize the football side, but then he'll also demand professionalism around him. And he could potentially then modernize what's around him, whether that's analysis, whether that's scouting, whether that's directors of football, whatever it is. Like, he will demand certain standards. He ain't going to come here. And this is one thing I do agree. I do disagree with. I know Anis posted something about Brian Barry Murphy yesterday, like how he feels it might go. The one thing I do disagree with him on this point is that I don't think Brian Barry Murphy is coming in to be a yes man. This guy has worked with Pep and Man City in one of the most professional outfits and academy outfits and businesses in the City Group, not just in Europe, but in the world. Like, the City Group is a worldwide organization with feeder clubs and all sorts of football talent. I just cannot fathom or see a way where he's coming in to drop it into League One, into Cardiff City. Yes, he wants his opportunity to be a manager, of course, but I don't think he sacrifices his principles and his standards to have Tan in his ear constantly telling him who to pick and who not to pick and all this sort of stuff, which Tan has done before. I just don't see it. Now, I might be wrong, of course. I'm just going on it's just an opinion based on what I see. And look, it is what it is. That's the one sort of part I disagree with. I understand people's concerns with Brian Barry Murphy's appointment or impending appointment. I do. I really understand why people are a bit like, oh, not sure about this, not sure this is what we need. For me, I think it's the perfect time to rebuild. And what we will get the opportunity to see now is these talented youngsters that we've got in the academy and the first team, is we're going to find out if they're good enough real quick. And if they're not, you might see some of them leaving real quick because they're going to get first team opportunities. Now, for me, that's exciting because I've seen some of them and I think some of them are ready to play first team football. You know, the likes of Ronan Kipakio, the likes of Dylan Lawler, they're ready for first team football, especially in League One. Like, if we were still in the Championship, you could argue Ronan Kipakio will be playing, but some of these players, like a Joel Colwell, we'd likely be looking to loan out to League One. Well, we're in League One now, so I can't see why would we loan whoever to another League One side. Brian Barry Murphy trusts youth, but he will also look to get the right players in to fit his system. And what's interesting about it is he plays a range of systems, has done. What'll be fascinating is to see which players fit his kind of player profile and his player ID of what he wants. Because you've only got to look at Craig Bellamy at Wales. Wants to play a certain way, wants to play with a high press, wants to play a very specific style. And if you don't fit that player ID or that profile, you ain't getting in the squad. But you certainly ain't getting in the team. And you, in some cases, you ain't getting in the squad. So it'll be really interesting because there's already a few players in that squad, which I'm like, not sure you fit with this, but it's going to be interesting, should I say. So before we kind of talk about the squad, I'm going to flip to some comments to see what you guys are saying. Evan, evening mate, says, evening, Si, I'll ask once, is there actually any interest from new club owners or is it just the annual wishes from fans? Feels like the board are getting fed up with each other as much as we are. There's definitely something to it, mate. But as I said, it's at a really delicate stage, and I guess we'll find out quick enough. But it won't feel like quick enough. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, we'll find out quick enough. John Watkins says history suggests not much will change. That said, it is time for some optimism. Give the club a chance to prove us wrong, and that's it. I think what Brian Barry Murphy and his staff can bring is a bit of optimism. We know they're going to play exciting football. We know they're going to play good football. And, you know, it might be a bit of a rocky road at the start as he tries to implement it. Now, I've heard he wants all the signings in and he wants all his players going on the pre-season tour so that by the time they finish the pre-season fixtures and everything and they go into the season, everyone knows what they're doing. Everyone knows the way he wants to play. And everyone is fully prepared. That's a good sign. I've already heard that he's made a really good impression on some people around the club. We'll talk about Paulie O'Connor in a sec, but it's really fascinating because I think he is someone who can give a bit of optimism. Tim O'Brien says, wishful thinking from people in the know. I think the club's value will have plummeted and the court case is still pending. It would be an odd time for Tan to sell. But if you take the court case out of it, it's probably not that odd a time to sell. You could argue that if he gives it one more year, next summer could be even better because if we go straight back up, then of course he's in a better position and the club's going to be valued higher. But if we did have a nightmare season and we stayed in League One at the very least, then of course it's going to be worse. So at some point, whether it's this summer or 10 years down the line, at some point Vincent Tan will have to cut his losses because he's putting in more than he's getting out. So, you know, it is what it is. Yeah, we're on the right stream. Jaden said he's more worried about World War III breaking out than what happens at the club at the moment. Mate, I've got to block it out of my mind. Me, Alex D in with a controversial one says, "Give me that Saudi cash." Oof. Josh said, "Which country is the investor from?" I did answer that. John says, "Be careful what you wish for. A consortium took over in the 70s, and that fell apart." Jonathan Davis says, "Good news, but kind of bad. Takeovers can take months. He won't want to spend on his way out." And asset stripping, mate. That's the other side of it. Is it's all very well being hoping for a sale and stuff, but if Tan was in the process of selling, asset stripping is a very real thing when an owner's on their way out, as they look to balance the books and they make the books look a bit more attractive to potential buyers. That would be disastrous if we started, like, you suddenly saw like Yusuf Salic, Alex Robertson, like anyone with any value sort of being sold. That would then, well, one, it would be an indication, I think, that we're probably being sold, but then it would also be quite a frightening way to start the season. Rhys says, "Don't forget, this gets posted every summer. Someone's keen to buy the club and then it's proved wrong. Tan asked too much, so let's blame him. Doubt there's even a buyer." No, there's definitely something to it. I don't know how it is at the moment because I don't know. So Mick says, "That's right, so I stick to facts, not rumors. Try my best, mate. But it's also difficult sometimes because I hear lots of different things about different stuff, and I talk about Cardiff City, and it does make it tricky for sometimes. And look, I guarantee you that I'll have at least one DM from someone, at least one, probably a couple, saying either, why didn't I say anything when I got told about it? Well, I'm not a journalist, so that's the first thing. Or I'll have a message saying, "Oh, you're full of shit. You're just saying that. It's easy to say you knew about it afterwards." But there's several people who can verify it if I needed to, but I don't need to prove anything. I think I've shown that I could be trusted, and I think I've shown that I'm authentic, and I just am who I am, and I try to be as honest as I can with you guys. Mark says, Gary Neville spoke recently about how many checks now needed to happen when buying a new club. Yeah, and they didn't even sell the club, did they? They sell like part of it and have like a restructuring of the directors and boardroom, and like there's so much that's got to happen. But of course, we don't know how far along it is, so that's something which you should always, or I should like to clarify, is I have no idea how far along it could or couldn't be. So it's difficult, isn't it? It's hard not to be excited by the thought of it, of course. Jonathan says, very, very happy with BPM. Very happy. He gets his own assistant. Just hoping he gets his own coaches and signings now. I think based on what I've heard already and based on what I think we'll see him get backed more than any other manager in recent times. I do. Probably, if I was guessing, I think he gets more backing than any manager since who got backed. So obviously Malky got backed. Neil Warnock, maybe. Like, I'm not saying we'll go out and spend millions, but I think they'll back him. I think they'll give him support staff. I think they'll give him his coaches. And yeah, it is what it is. Adam says, I'm really excited. I've heard more good than bad from Leicester fans. In fairness, mate, he was only at Leicester for 6 months and he was assistant manager. And in someone tell me who Neil Warnock's assistant manager was. Someone tell me who Mick McCarthy's assistant manager was. It's not something that people would be super familiar with, other than if you're a bit of a geek for tactics and stuff like that, which I am. But it is what it is, isn't it? Like the same with the Rochdale stuff. Like people who want to criticize or think of it like glass half empty will say, "Oh, he took Rochdale down," which is factually correct. And people who want to be look at it or see the more positive side of it will say, "Well, he did a wicked job for 2 years in the lowest budget possible and played good football while he did it," which I think is refreshing. Every appointment's a risk. And of course, there's risk to this appointment. I think if they back him and they give him the right structure and support around him, then I think is exciting. To be fair, Fabrizio said it'll be Monday that BBM starts work, so who knows at this point. Yeah, I think what day are we? Sunday. As of yesterday, there was still a few bits and pieces to be sorted, and I did get a bit of a nod. So I've asked one of the people who I speak to, is a friend of mine. I've asked him to keep me apprised, not necessarily on the announcement because I want to know before everyone else, but so I could be prepared to go live and graphics and all the rest of it. And the last thing he said to me was maybe Monday, but maybe Tuesday could be as well. They got to sort stuff out. At the end of the day, they got to sort stuff out. But give you a little bit of exciting. I also know that we've talked to a couple of players, and I just wonder, and this is pure reckless speculation on my part. Okay, this is just an opinion. It's the summer, it's the transfer window. We're going to have a bit of fun with it. But what if, because they know that this process is being dragged out, and they know there's going to be at least some people who are a bit unsure about Brian Barry Murphy, what if they want to show that he's going to hit the ground running, and we get like his announcement with his backroom staff? We're also going to get the new kit announcement at some point. I'm sure they'll make like a cool video and stuff like that to go with that. What if they announced his first signing around the same time? Not saying all at the same time, but like close together, just to build that excitement and stuff like that before the window closes for a bit. So, I think we're speaking to a couple of centre-backs. Is where, isn't it? I don't have any names in terms of who those are. On a completely separate note, I put a video out this morning, just looking at Powdy O'Connor, who's a 26-year-old centre back, 6'3". It's interesting. You should have a look at it. It's a good video. After this, of course. Mark says he is very excited about, hopefully people will read between the lines there. BBM, very happy with his appointment, but he needs to be backed and we need to be patient. And by the way, that's not me saying that Powdy O'Connor is going to sign for Cardiff City. I'm just saying, like, he's a name, he's a person, he potentially, but I'm sure he's got interest from the Championship as well because he's a good player. And then it's up to people like Brian Barry Murphy. It's up to Paddy Du Bois or whoever from the board to sell the football club to these types of players. These players who could go to the Championship, we have to sell it as a project. Ricky J. Jones still hasn't signed for anyone. You have to sell it to him as a project. Now, I think Ricky J. Jones will be out of our price range in terms of his wages and stuff like that because he's on a free. He's got teams like Birmingham interested in him. I think it'd be very difficult to get that over the line financially. Very difficult. But then equally, if you want to set your stall out and say, no, we're going to back this manager, getting someone like Ricky J. Jones would be insane. So, look, it remains to be seen. Evan says BBM is a painter. He's an artist, mate. He's certainly that. Leon says, I'm as excited about him as I would be if it was anyone at this point. Just glad it's over. Not the type of manager I think we need right now, but I'll back him like I would anyone. Yeah, and I understand that. Like, I understand. And I'm surprised by it in many ways because I really felt we were going to go for someone with a bit more experience. But I also thought that Brian Barry Murphy was too clever an appointment for us. I felt like he's too outside the box. He's just not someone we'd go for. That's someone which other clubs who are more modernized would go for. So not only am I excited by it, but I'm actually quite impressed by it. And look, it all goes back to his interview. The detail and the way he spoke at that interview, from that moment, there was people within that boardroom who were very much, this is the guy. And it really came down to, especially when the Nathan Jones stuff was done, it was kind of BBM or Aaron. They were the two, which is it's really funny, like, because some of the people who were not sure about Brian Barry Murphy were the same people who were happy for Aaron Ramsey. Now, I understand why people were happy with Aaron. I was one of them, because it brought about, you felt like it would bring about a structure change, a director of football or a sporting director. And that's what we're crying out for in many ways. So, of course, you get excited by that, and you think, right, well, if Aaron comes in, yes, he's inexperienced, but we can put X, Y, and Z around him, and we can have a sporting director, and maybe we can move the club forward now. So I understand why, but look, Brian Barry Murphy can still instigate similar change. We just got maybe just give it time, because what they announced this week with the manager and the coaches, in my opinion, might not be the end of changes that we see to the way Cardiff do things. And that's just an opinion. That's not based on anything which I know or I've been told, just an opinion. CCFC Insider says, I'm cautiously excited. So much to be enthusiastic about, but let's see how he does. As someone who doesn't know a great deal, I'm interested to see how it plays out. Yeah, look, mate, I'm excited, but I'm also nervous, because I've, very openly said, like, bring this guy into the football club. Now, when I was saying that, I didn't expect him to be manager. I've got to be honest, but I've been very, very public about that. Like 8 months ago, I was saying, get this guy in a football club. Well, they've done that now. So, of course, I'm excited by his appointment, but I'm also nervous because I'm worried that we'll do what we do as a football club, and we won't give him the correct backing. We won't give him the correct support staff. We won't have things like we won't. If we, as a football club and a fan base, but as a football club, generally speaking, if we raise everything to his level of standard and professionalism, then we could be in for an exciting time, because he could be the guy who starts the rebuild. If we don't, and we do what we always do, then we're probably going to repeat the cycle. And it won't matter who the manager is. But I'm excited to find out. I'll tell you that much. Legend in the chat, Mr. Phil Stant. How are you, mate? Hope you're good. Says, I say, everyone else, hope you're well. Just a point. All the takeovers, in my experience, take time. The most important thing at the moment is player recruitment. Pre-season is just over 2 weeks away. Yeah, 100%, mate. Recruitment's vital, because it's all right having these talented youngsters, but we need to get the right players around them to get the best out of them. You cannot go in and think that you're just going to play 11 academy players every week and do all right. Like, there's so much nuance to it, whether it's physicality, whether it's athleticism, whether it's movement off the ball, it's work rate. There's so much nuance to League One that it's not as simple as just being the best team or having the best players. You need a range of skill sets and attributes. So we have to be working on that. And hopefully Brian Barry Murphy, even if he only starts work tomorrow or Tuesday, is already, I'm sure, thinking about that and having phone calls. Look, just because he hasn't signed his contract, we all know it's happening. So you'd like to think that he's on WhatsApp, or he's on his phone, or he's on Zoom, and he's speaking to whoever, Paddy Du Bois, the recruitment team, the scouts, whoever he needs to speak to, and saying, I need this, I need that, have a look, find me this type of player, find me that type of player, whatever it may be. I think he'll bring a goalkeeper in as well. It's just my opinion again. Dan says, I'm really excited for BBM. He'll demand a certain standard and clearly has excellent footballing brain. I just hope he isn't one of these who's a good coach but not a good manager. He's good reputation with the kids. Yeah, you'd struggle to find very many people who don't speak highly of him. I'm sure you could find some like Rochdale fans who didn't like it, but it's what it is, isn't it? CF11 News says maybe BBM came because Tan's off. Leon, you confused me, mate. Seringa. check out his videos, by the way. Those little podcasts, they're wicked. They are. I really like them on Savigma Twitter account, which you'll see there. He does like sort of 3-minute podcast video things. They're quite funny and they're good. And he referenced one of my videos, I think, in the last one. So I always appreciate that. Mark says, I hope BBM speaks to Pep weekly and gets advice when things are not just going bad, but good as well. Yeah, mate. And these are the thing, right? Is same with Aaron and Craig Bellamy and all these people is just like you and me. If you work with someone or you have a relationship with someone, just because you move somewhere else or change jobs, you don't just suddenly stop speaking to these people. So you'd like to think he will lean on all his various contacts and relationships. JT says, obviously Tan doesn't pay the social media admin team to work weekends. No posts all weekend when they could have announced BBM. It's because they're still been sorting out bits and pieces, mate. They can't announce it until he's signed the contract. Then it's definitely done. Like, that's not me saying it's not going to happen. I'm just saying that until it's signed, they can't announce it. Like, it's not on the social media team. I'm very quick to criticize them, but you can't. There's not much you can do. But I understand people's frustration as well. Tim says BBM should have good contacts to get loan players. He also knows League One well. Yeah, 100%, mate. I think we might get a young goalkeeper in, like a ball-playing goalkeeper. That's my prediction. I can see that because I don't think either of our keepers particularly suit the way he wants to play. Jonathan says, do you think BBM's relationship with Robertson could convince him to stay and get the best out of him? I mean, you'd like to think it wouldn't hurt. I hope he stays, mate, because the last time he was in League One for Portsmouth, he absolutely tore it up. And I would imagine he's a better footballer than he was 2 years ago. So I really hope Alex Robertson stays. I think he can be a massive part. If we can get a really athletic number 6, then I think can you imagine like Barry Murphy's like 1 and 2 touch football with like a 4-3-3, like an old school 4-3-3, like a single pivot, 2-8s of Cole Ruben and Alex Robertson with a really athletic, physical number 6 who's just it's super exciting. Play some flipping football then, won't we? Isaac Davis, get him fit, get him in the wide areas with his pace. Kean, I think, suits. Kean's a really good technical footballer. Hasn't got a pace of like Isaac, but technically I think he's excellent. Works hard as well. Evan says, I think people created this disconnect between attractive football and getting results. BBM is definitely capable of both. I've only heard good things about him and harsh comments about Rochdale. Yeah, I thought it was quite refreshing to see someone come into Rochdale who are all but down and them not just appoint like an old school, like a Mick McCarthy or this type of manager, and then just go like back to basics, run the channels, work hard, all this sort of stuff. Like, I thought it was really refreshing from Rochdale to actually go, no, we're going to get someone who's really progressive in, and that's how we're going to stay up. And then I think it's really exciting that that's what he did. And he did it on a shoestring budget for 2 seasons. That's good. Really, really good. Yeah, there you go. Jonathan and Rhys got the assistants. Well done. But my point is that I don't think everybody is or would be aware of the assistants and the coaches. I think it's more prominent these days. But my point was that, like, yeah, radio tomorrow, 11 o'clock, Newport City Radio, 11 till 12 in the morning with Sai, playing some bangers, playing Guess the Year. Join me. It's always a good time. Someone please beat Rhys to Guess the Year because he's won it like the last 2 times. It's getting embarrassing. Evan says he's more skeptical than ever, but at the same time, the way you're talking, so I think we're going up. Oh, don't blame me, mate. Don't blame me at all. There you go. Simon loves it. Love a bit of reckless speculation, Si. Distracts us from the usual circus. Mate, I got all sorts of reckless speculation I can give you. As Ricky J. John's gone to St. Pauli, what a move that is for him. He'll absolutely kill it out there. Absolutely kill it in there. I'm so engulfed in all the Cardiff stuff. I miss these things. Need people to send me stuff. Steak 1961 says it's a tough league to get out of. New manager hasn't got that long now to hit the ground running. I don't know. What are we? 15th of June, about 2 weeks before preseason starts. Thing is, this next 2 weeks, they don't even really spend doing fitness. They wouldn't do a lot of ball work. They'd be getting fit, doing all like they'll come back, they'll weigh them, they'll do all that sort of stuff, do the health checks and the heart checks and all that sort of stuff. They'll obviously speak to the new manager and that kind of thing. So it's like, it's exciting. Yeah, Ricky J. Jones going to St. Pauli. That is a wicked move for him. I predict he will absolutely destroy it out in Germany. The man is so quick, and he can score goals as well. So look, Andrew says BBM comes in the same mold as Bullet. I don't know what you mean by that, mate. Give me some context, because I don't see much correlation, but you might be looking at something different. Jonathan says Ramsey was the nostalgia appointment. No, well, not for. I can only speak for me, but like for me, it was more that he would implement a structural change, and we'd finally have like a director or a sporting director or whatever, and he was going to get really experienced coaches with him, and like it felt like that would implement a bit of a change. Algorithm says, as I see it, BBM was third choice. No offense to the bloke, but we were beginning to run out of options. I disagree with that, mate. We could have got Des Buckingham at pretty much any point. We chose not to. Obviously, Aaron, it all broke down. That's slightly different. The Nathan Jones thing, they tried, they didn't. But BBM was always right up there with Jones and Aaron from the moment he done that interview. Like, and don't take my word for it. If you speak to people like Glenn Williams and the rest of it, they'll all tell you from the moment he did that interview was he really, really thrust himself right up there. And I think there was parts of that board which wanted to give it to him ahead of the other two. But as usual, our board can't agree. Fuck all. There's no shock there. There was Andrew said Bullet didn't have the right back into. Yeah, I do think they'll back him. Well, put it this way, right? If they appoint Brian Barry Murphy, right, and they go against what I was thinking, which was, what did I say? I said he was too far outside the box. He made too much sense. It would be too good of an appointment, so they definitely won't appoint him. And they have. If they then don't give him his staff, or they don't back him in the transfer market, or they don't let him make all the decisions around the squad, and they hang him out to dry the way they have others, then like, what was the point in appointing the progressive, exciting manager? Do you know what I mean? And the fans need to have patience, but they also, and look, I understand everyone. Some people are excited by it. Some people are a bit in the middle. Some people are not sure. Some people are very wary of the appointment. I get all of the different views. I understand all the different views. But what I can say, I think, without any shadow of a doubt, is that come that first game of the season, or come the first preseason game, all City fans will be behind him. Everyone wants him to do well at the end of the day. Like, no one wants him to fail. It's just one of them. And I think Cardiff fans, you look at the way we were with Rhys right till the end, everyone backed him, even though they felt that he wasn't probably up to it at certain points or in certain ways. Like, they backed him all the way. And I believe that they'll be the same again. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. And I think people who are concerned about his experience, or they should have got this or that, like, those opinions are very valid. And there's also a lot of people, I think, who are just not familiar with him, so they automatically think negatively of it because they just don't know. It's going to be a mad season. I think it's going to be so fascinating. Like, I got to say, Adam says it's a risk for BBM just as much as it is us. surely he wouldn't take the job without reassurances. You'd think so, mate, wouldn't you? CCFC Insider says players back in next Monday, so need to get the ball rolling ASAP. Yeah, I think, and one thing I will say, right, and I'm not wanting to give the board credit, is last summer they did, apart from the Kanga one, like the striker, the other signings, they moved quickly, they moved swiftly, and they plugged the leaks. I want to see that again this year, but even more. Like, I want to see it even quicker. I want to see it even more focused, and I want to see it done with even less leaks. Even though that affects me, I want to see it. I was loving it. And there's a few people in the chat who will tell you I was absolutely loving how hard it was to find out what was going on last year, because that's good. That's the way we should be run, you know? Martin says it'd be fascinating to see if BBM can transform the potential of our young players into consistent performers on the field. Yeah, and I mean, another thing which has been mentioned is, can he get the best out of some of the senior players? How will some of the senior players react to him? Look, one thing I would say, and I would make very clear, is anyone, no matter how old they are, if they're not on board with the manager and with Cardiff City Football Club, and their 100% focus is on getting Cardiff back up, then they should leave. Simple as that. So that would be my first thought on the squad as a whole. Second of all, being that he's such a highly rated coach, and the guy, I've forgotten his name, Lee Riley, isn't it? Who's rumored to be his assistant, is also one of the most highly rated coaches around. You'd like to think that between them two and whoever the other coaches are, they will get the best out of some of these people. It's not that long ago that Perry NG was being rated right up there as one of the best right backs in the Championship alongside Walker Peters. It's not that long ago that Callum Chambers was playing Premier League football. You know, if he can get the best out of these players, assuming they're still there, because I don't think it's a guarantee that they all stay, but assuming they're still there, if he can get the best out of those players and get them playing, some serious footballers there. Like even Callum Chambers. Now, I think Callum Chambers will leave because of his wages. And I don't know. I have no insight into whether he wants to go or stay, or if he's happy to play in League One. I don't know anything about that. He's on a lot of money. He's the highest paid player now. Well, he was the highest paid player anyway. My problem with him is, where's he going to play? I don't think he can play centre back for us. And I don't think he can play CDM or like as a 6. And I don't think he's going to play right back. So it's like, where do you play him? And I know Omar Rhys thought really, really highly of him. Really highly of him. So, and maybe I'm doing him a disservice. I just felt that he got unstuck a little bit by pace when he was in defence. Got caught out of positionally a little bit. But he also suffered a couple of times in the last 3 games when Will Fish could win out of position. So look, it is what it is, isn't it? It's it'll be interesting what he can do with the team, regardless of any signings. I think we need to be honest with you, I don't think we need loads, depending on who goes out. But if you assume the squad is as it is now, I think you sign a leader who's about 26, 6'3", a really athletic number 6, and one pacey winger who's skillful and up there on the assist chart. I think that's all right. Then you look at, like, if you sell players or you move players out, then you replace them. So, like, for instance, if we sold Callum Robinson, then you need to replace him, and so on. But actually, saying that, I think we could do it all right back. I think it's a lot to put on Ronan Kipakio, and I'm just not sure what we get with Perry at the moment. I was speaking to someone whose opinion I respect. who said he thinks that Perry NG will play centre back for us next year as a kind of ball playing, physical, bit of an experienced head among some of the younger lads. Because you got to remember, Will Fish is early 20s, Darlan's 25, I think. Dylan Lawler's 18. Tsunoda, who knows if he's ever going to play for Cardiff City. So it'll be it's going to be interesting. Jonathan says he's still officially part of Leicester. He could tap up some players like Will Alves before he goes. There is a player actually from Leicester. What's his name? There's a young lad from Leicester. I'm sure his name's Glenn something. He's supposed to be absolutely wicked. I think it's Glenn. I might got that wrong. But there's a player who we've been maybe. Jonathan says BPM links to Leicester. Danny Ward left Leicester for free, looking for a keeper. Do you know what, mate? Right? People laugh and slag off Danny Ward. I'd take Danny Ward over both our keepers. So, Mark says, any news on outgoings? I haven't heard anything really for a couple of weeks on that because it's all been about the manager stuff. The last I'd heard was that there was a few players who either asked to leave or asked for bids to be accepted because they feel they can play at a higher level. My answer to that was they didn't do it last year at a higher level, did they? So why should we give them the opportunity now unless it's right for us? But that's just my bitterness, isn't it? Yeah, this 100%. I think this is where we'll kind of finish up tonight. Martin says, Guas's departing remarks suggest that Barry Murphy is not just football to sort out, but he's got to sort out attitudes and commitment. Yeah, there's a massive attitude issue, a mentality issue in that dressing room. And I think he will change the culture, and I think he'll change it quick. And some of those sulkers and some of those disruptive influences from the last couple of years, I think they may be the first to go. Because what you'll find with those types of personalities is when someone comes in and expects a very, very high standard of effort every day, is they get their nose put out of joint early because they're like, oh, we're this, we're that, we've done this, who are you? You've come in, you're telling me to do this, you're telling me to do that. And it's like they soon get found out, anyone who's got that type of attitude. Dan says, looking forward to seeing our potential front line of Tanner, Salic, Davis and Ashford as a 10 could do. I also think Willock could rip it up in League One, having more time on the ball if he stays. No, mate, I can't have Willock at all. I really can't. I thought he was a big letdown last year. You might be right. Like in League One, he might be at his sort of level. Yeah, Sarah's saying about the buyout. Yeah, we talked about that at the start, Sarah. So go back afterwards and have a look. Jamie Vardy would be an expensive sub. Oh, I didn't see that. Jamie Vardy's looking for options. I'd be amazed if Jamie Vardy doesn't go to Wrexham. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. I think Wrexham or Celtic was he linked with. CCFC Insider says, one stumbling block Premier League loans, I suppose, is the club will always take youngsters with them on tour. So they're probably late July, early August when they come available. Yeah, this is it's part of the parcel, part of the game, isn't it, I suppose. Yeah, Paul makes a great point. He says, we get behind every manager. It's whether Vincent Tan does. Will he, won't he? I hope they don't go lumping players on BBM. I'd rather BBM go for what he wants. Yeah, I can't imagine. And I said this earlier on when I was talking about him being a potential yes man. I cannot imagine that someone who's worked with the people that he's worked with in the size of business and football clubs that he's worked in, that he's going to come in and be a yes man. And I can't imagine that he's going to come in and not have a say on a player or be in control of who's in his squad and who's not. And it's not unusual, by the way, for clubs to, between their recruitment or head of recruitment and normally a direct sporting director, to identify players or even sometimes sign players if you haven't got a manager. But what they would normally do is they identify them, they scout them, and then they'll take them to the manager and say, show them and then say, what would you do? Mark says, what's a bigger priority, moving out players or getting players in? So I think you've got to get the play. I would like to think you get the players in first, then sell. So you put yourself in a position where you kind of get stuck with players you don't want then. So it's a balancing act. You probably got to do a bit of both as you go. Martin says the real challenge is going to be moving players on. Yes and no. I think especially once the window opens after the Club World Cup, there'll be clubs trying to pick off some of our players on a cheap. Paul says, do we sign Joe Rawls? I think with Joe Rawls, I think he can be a massive part of he's a leader off the pitch. My worry is with him is if he was on the same amount of wages that he was on previously, the likelihood that he's going to start week in, week out is slim. It's a lot of money to be paying out in wages for someone who's essentially going to be on the bench more often than not, or unavailable because he can't play 3 games in a week or whatever it is. So that's my only worry with that. Rinamoto, I would like to see stay, but it's Ian says, is it mental to think that Eli King's the ideal 6 for the BBM system? He can play as an 8, a 6, or a centre back. He's incredibly athletic. Yeah, I think I'm going to do a video on Eli and have a real deep dive into some of his highlights and stuff because, I'd like to really see it. Like, I haven't watched enough of him to say definitively yes to your question, mate. But what I can say is I will have a real good look. Because a few people have said his name to me, like he's the one who can be the 6. And you've got Joel Colwell and others to come in as well. So it's interesting. Let's have a look. Simon Perrett says, as long as the alleged disruptive players go or are gone, replaced with consistent quality, he'll give 100% when they cross the white line. Yeah, I agree, mate. It's just one of them, isn't it? Right. I think I'm done there, but let's have a look. Anything further? No, I don't think so. I got to go pick my son up. Guys, girls, I really appreciate you all. Thank you so much to everyone. Shout out to Daniel Pritchard as well, who messaged me on Thursday when my system was down. I didn't see it until the next day, unfortunately, but he offered to let me use his streaming software. I really appreciate that. It was genuine. I appreciated that message. And at the end of the day, we're all City fans in it. But so, right. I will see you tomorrow. I don't know what's out tomorrow. I might put 2 videos out again. Who knows? But if you haven't checked it out already, we've had the risks of Brian Barry Murphy video. We've had the positives of Brian Barry Murphy. We've had the recruitment report on Paudi O'Connor this morning. Potentially could be Brian Barry Murphy's first sign-in, but it's just a scout report, which we did before. We've got loads of videos. There's like 4 or 5 videos on Brian Barry Murphy going back several months. So please do check them out. Please do leave a comment. And then also, most of all, make sure you're subscribed, all that good stuff. Share the videos with your mates, with your City fan mates. Like, that's what helps us grow. We're growing really, really quickly at the moment, and it's good to see. And I want to keep doing it. We want to keep going 7 days a week, Cardiff City content every single day. On the weekends, there's going to be 2 bits of content each day as well. And that'll extend into the midweek as we go as well. We've got the next episode of The Rebuild. We've got an interview with Cohen Griffith coming. Loads and loads of stuff. We've got a City Legends events with Joe Ledley, the video of that coming. So much stuff coming all the time, 7 days a week. If you can become a member, please do. And it's, as I said in the video the other day, it's not just, supporting us, of course, is massive. You get the member show on a Monday, which is members only. You occasionally get like little bits of snippets of transfer news and stuff like that, manager news, whatever, if I hear stuff and I'm confident of it. But also you get 24 hours early access to the City Legend tickets. So when we do a live event, if you're a member, you get 24 hours early access to those tickets. And that could be massive. Like some of the events are like really quick. We got one already booked in for December. We got a few more. I'm hoping that we can do a really special one on short notice in the next couple of weeks. I don't think it's going to happen, but if it does, it'll be special and it'll sell out as quick as Craig Bellamy, if not quicker. But we got loads coming. Got a few of them coming now. And lastly, members, have a look out because we've got some exclusive merch dropping. I'll be posting it out possibly tomorrow morning. You will have 7 days to order it. And if you don't order it, it's gone. There's limited availability. And then after the 7 days, if they haven't all been bought by the members, I'll put them up for like 48 hours for everyone else. And they'll be gone. And that'll be the only chance you get to get that merch. It's going to be very limited edition. It's going to be the absolute highest of quality, based around like a retro City kit in football shirt material. It looks really cool. I love it. And designed by my good friend, Mr. Mike Vaughan. Going to be made by him as well. So it's going to be the highest of quality. So if you want that, look out for the message if you're a member. And if you're not a member, look out because there'll only be a small window, if there's any left after the members have had their pick of it, basically, because that's one of the perks of being a member. So as I say, anyway, if you can be a member, be a member. If you can't, it's all good. Just make sure you subscribe, all that good stuff. Appreciate you. Keep the faith, my friends. In a bit.